LeBron James reacts to Luka Dončić'S contract renewal with the Lakers. Stay until the end to find out everything, but first, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. The afternoon sun was sinking behind the Los Angeles skyline when the news broke. Luka Dončić had signed a 3-year extension with the Lakers, worth an eye-watering $165 million, securing his presence until at least 2028. Within minutes, the news had rippled across the sports world. Social media buzzed, television anchors broke into regular programming, and Lakers fans from Santa Monica to East LA were already imagining championship parades. Yet in the midst of the noise, all eyes turned to one man, LeBron James. LeBron was in the Lakers' practice facility when he first heard the final confirmation. He'd known negotiations were going well. The front office had kept him in the loop, respecting his veteran status and leadership, but seeing it finalized brought a quiet smile to his face. It wasn't the wide-grinned, chest-thumping celebration of a fresh victory on the court. It was subtler, more like the expression of a man who knows he has witnessed the turning of a page in a very long book. For 2 decades, LeBron had been the main character in almost every basketball chapter he touched. From Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, and then to Los Angeles, the teams he joined revolved around his gravitational pull. But here now, there was something different. Dončić wasn't a rising star in need of guidance. He was already one of the most complete players in the league. This was not about passing a torch reluctantly. It was about recognizing that the torch was already burning brightly in someone else's hands. Reporters were quick to speculate about how LeBron might feel. Would he see Luka as a threat to his legacy within the Lakers franchise? Would he resent being nudged out of the center stage? Those who truly understood LeBron's journey knew better. His history had shown a deep respect for the game's continuity, a belief that the league's greatness was built on generations handing down the standard to those ready to carry it forward. When he finally addressed the matter, LeBron's tone matched his demeanor in private. "It's a big win for the Lakers organization," he told the assembled media. "We want to compete for titles every year, and having Luka here long-term is a huge step in that direction. He's one of the best in the game, and I'm excited to keep building with him." It wasn't a flashy soundbite designed for viral headlines, but it carried weight. In a league where egos often shape narratives more than performance, LeBron was deliberately shifting attention toward Luka. The message was clear. This was a team move, not a LeBron move, and that distinction mattered. Later that evening, Luka received a FaceTime call from LeBron. The younger star answered to see the familiar smile framed by the unmistakable Lakers practice jersey. "Congratulations, brother," LeBron said, his voice calm but warm. "You've earned every bit of this. Now let's go win something." It was short, personal, and purposeful. The conversation didn't need to be long. For LeBron, this was about respect, about acknowledging Luka not as a teammate he was mentoring, but as a co-architect of the Lakers' future. And for Luka, hearing that from a player whose career defined the modern NBA carried a significance that would outlast the contract itself. As the city lit up in gold and purple pride, the subtext of the day was impossible to ignore. A transition was quietly taking place, one that didn't require a formal ceremony or a dramatic farewell. Instead, it was happening in the subtle nods, the shared smiles, and the understanding between two of the greatest players of their respective generations. The Lakers had secured their future, and LeBron had shown he was ready to help shape it, even if it meant playing a slightly different role than before. For most of his career, LeBron James had lived under a constant spotlight, the kind that magnifies not just performance, but every flicker of emotion. In the early years, he learned the hard way that a single facial expression could ignite weeks of media speculation. So when Luka Dončić'S renewal with the Lakers became official, LeBron's composed smile wasn't just a natural reaction. It was a calculated choice. Inside, there was no bitterness. Instead, there was a quiet confidence that came from knowing he had already proven everything he needed to. 4 championships, multiple MVPs, countless records. His resume was carved into the very bedrock of NBA history. And while many players struggle when they sense the spotlight shifting to someone else, LeBron had been preparing for this kind of transition for years. In truth, he had anticipated the moment from the day Luka arrived in Los Angeles. Dončić'S style was unique, an unpredictable blend of deliberate pace and sudden explosiveness, a command of angles and timing that could make even elite defenders seem a step too slow. LeBron saw in Luka not just skill, but leadership potential, the ability to influence games without needing to dominate every possession. That was the hallmark of someone who could carry a franchise. Privately, LeBron's competitive instincts still burned as fiercely as ever. He wasn't handing over the reins because he couldn't contribute. He was doing it because he believed that great teams were built on the coexistence of multiple pillars, not the dominance of a single one. He had learned this lesson alongside Dwyane Wade in Miami, and later while mentoring Anthony Davis. Now, with Luka, the equation was different again. This wasn't about teaching fundamentals, but about aligning 2 fully formed basketball minds. Some in the Lakers organization noticed subtle changes in LeBron's interactions with Luka during practices. Instead of delivering lengthy lectures after drills, he asked more questions, creating a dialogue rather than a hierarchy. He challenged Luka's ideas about offensive spacing, defensive reads, and late-game execution, not to assert authority, but to refine strategies together. This collaborative approach was intentional, a way to show Luka that his voice carried equal weight. When asked by a close friend if he felt overshadowed by Luka's extension, LeBron laughed. "Man, I've been in the center of the storm for 20 years. If someone else wants to take some of that lightning, I'm fine with it. I still know what I bring." It wasn't false modesty. It was the perspective of someone who had learned to value longevity over constant validation. That night, as he replayed the day's events in his mind, LeBron thought back to his own early years. He remembered the veterans who had either embraced him or resented him. The ones who welcomed him, players like Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Eric Snow in Cleveland, or Shane Battier in Miami, had left the deepest impressions. He knew the kind of veteran he wanted to be, and he knew Luka's career would be better for it. Quiet confidence is not the absence of ego, it's the mastery of it. And as Los Angeles celebrated the extension of their new franchise cornerstone, LeBron found peace in knowing he was shaping the future without needing his name in the headline. The torch, in his eyes, was never meant to be clutched tightly. It was meant to light the way for whoever could carry it next. Long before the cameras caught Luka Dončić holding up the pen for his contract extension, the real groundwork had been laid in a series of quiet, carefully orchestrated conversations. Some took place in the Lakers' executive offices, where championship banners hung like silent witnesses. Others happened in the locker room between practice drills, when the walls were less about marble prestige and more about sweat, tape, and the faint smell of pine resin. LeBron James was never officially part of the negotiations. That was the front office's domain. But his influence floated in the air like an unspoken constant. Rob Pelinka, the Lakers' general manager, valued his perspective. Pelinka knew that any major decision involving the team's future needed to align with LeBron's competitive timeline and leadership style. "I'm not here to run the team," LeBron would remind him. "But I'm here to win. That means making sure we're building something that can hold up under pressure." Behind closed doors, LeBron's message about Luka was consistent. Lock him in. He wasn't concerned about whether Luka would eventually surpass his own statistical records in a Lakers uniform. Records were made to be broken. What mattered was stability, and Luka offered that in abundance. His game was not dependent on raw athleticism, meaning his prime could last well into his 30s. For a franchise like the Lakers, that was gold. In one particularly telling meeting, LeBron was asked how he envisioned sharing the floor with Luka over the next few seasons. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and smiled. Simple. We build the offense so either of us can run it. If Luka's cooking, I space out, keep the defense honest. If I've got a mismatch, he finds me. We keep defenses guessing, and we make each other's jobs easier. It's not complicated unless you make it complicated. Meanwhile, Luka himself was in close contact with LeBron throughout the process. Before making his final decision, the Slovenian star sought his veteran teammates' perspective. In a quiet moment after a road win in Denver, Luka had asked, "Do you think this is the place I should commit to long-term?" LeBron didn't rush to answer. He let the hum of the arena's emptying stands fill the silence for a few seconds before speaking. "This is Los Angeles," LeBron said finally. "It's the Lakers. If you want to build a legacy that people talk about 50 years from now, this is where you do it. But legacy isn't just banners and rings. It's who you do it with. I'm here for now. AD's here. The organization's committed. The question is, are you ready to carry this when I'm gone?" Luka had nodded without hesitation. That moment, as much as any financial figure in the contract, sealed the deal in his mind. After the extension was signed, the two met privately in the practice facility. No cameras, no press releases, just two players on an empty court. They talked about training schedules, how to stagger their minutes to keep both fresh and even off-court plans to keep the team connected. LeBron, who had been through countless team-building phases, stressed the importance of chemistry over hype. "The media's gonna spin this however they want," he told Luka. "Let them. Our job is to make sure the story on the court is better than the story in the headlines." By the time the official press conference rolled around, both men knew the public version of the story would only hint at the truth. The real story, the one that mattered, had been written quietly, in trust, in shared ambition, and in the understanding that a franchise's future is best built away from the noise. By the time the Lakers' press release hit inboxes, the story was already spreading faster than the ink could dry. Every sports outlet, from national networks to local blogs, was pushing the same headline: Luka Dončić signs 3-year extension with Lakers. The numbers, $165 million player option in 2028, were bold, but the subtext was even bigger. This wasn't just a contract, it was a public declaration that the franchise's future would be built around Luka. The media frenzy came in waves. The first wave was celebratory, a chorus of analysts praising the Lakers for securing one of the league's brightest stars. Clips of Luka's highlights in purple and gold flooded social media. Commentators began debating how many championships this core could realistically win. The tone was almost euphoric. The second wave was speculative, and this was where LeBron James inevitably entered the conversation. On sports talk shows, the questions came in sharp bursts. What does this mean for LeBron's role? Is he ready to take a back seat? Could this accelerate his retirement plans? The irony wasn't lost on him. After 20 years of dominating headlines, he was still central to them, even in a story that wasn't about him. LeBron, however, was no stranger to navigating these waters. He had lived through similar storms. In Miami, when Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade drew attention, and again in Cleveland when Kyrie Irving emerged. He understood that the media's job was to craft narratives, and that the smartest response was to control only what he could control. His own words and actions. During his first media availability after the announcement, LeBron kept his composure. Cameras clicked in rapid bursts as he adjusted his chair and leaned into the microphone. "This is a great day for our organization," he began. "Luka's an incredible talent, and having him here long-term gives us a real shot at competing at the highest level. My role's the same as it's always been. Help this team win, whatever that looks like." Reporters probed, as they always did. One asked if he was comfortable not being the primary face of the franchise anymore. LeBron smiled, the kind of smile that said, "I've been asked tougher questions than this. I've been the face of teams, the face of the league even. That's not the only way to impact winning. Luka's earned every bit of attention he's getting. If that means I'm in the background sometimes, that's fine, as long as the banners keep going up. The answer was measured, but it didn't stop the headlines from twisting his words into click-worthy interpretations. By the evening, talk shows were dissecting whether background meant he was preparing to fade out entirely. LeBron didn't bother to correct them. In his mind, the truth would reveal itself on the court. Meanwhile, Lakers fans were split into factions, not in hostility, but in loyalty. Some were die-hard LeBron supporters, sentimental about his remaining years and wary of the spotlight, moving elsewhere. Others were already fully invested in Luka as the future, seeing his extension as the dawn of a new dynasty. Social media debates flared daily, and both players' names trended more than once in the week after the announcement. Through it all, LeBron stayed consistent. He congratulated Luka in public and private, maintained his usual intensity in practice, and refused to feed the drama. To him, the noise was just that. Noise. What mattered was whether the Lakers could translate the headlines into wins. The rest, he knew, would fade away as soon as the next big story hit the news cycle. On the surface, LeBron James and Luka Dončić'S came from entirely different worlds. One was a kid from Akron, Ohio, who carried the weight of Chosen One headlines before he could legally vote. The other grew up in Ljubljana, Slovenia, dribbling through narrow streets and developing a game that would later defy NBA conventions. Yet, when you stripped away the geography, the languages, and the generational gap, there was a shared core between them, an unshakable hunger to win. The renewal of Luka's contract wasn't just a business move, it was a mutual commitment to the same cause. LeBron understood this immediately. Championships weren't won by talent alone. They required a relentless drive, an almost obsessive intolerance for mediocrity. From the moment Luka joined the Lakers, LeBron had been quietly studying him, looking for signs that he was more than just a statistical phenomenon. The contract extension to LeBron was less about numbers and more about confirming that Luka had the same mental wiring he valued above all else. Their conversations after the deal reflected that alignment. Sitting side by side in the team's film room, they dissected games not just to find mistakes, but to anticipate problems before they happened. LeBron pointed out how playoff defenses would adapt to Luka's pace-heavy isolation plays, and Luka countered with adjustments that would pull defenders out of position. It wasn't teacher-student, it was architect to architect, each one refining the other's blueprints. Off the court, their ambitions overlapped in another way. Both wanted to leave something behind that outlived their careers. LeBron's focus had long been on building a culture of professionalism and accountability in every locker room he entered. Luka, though younger, had already shown flashes of that leadership in Dallas before coming to LA. Now, with the security of his contract, he was ready to take on the full weight of being a franchise cornerstone, and he wanted to do it without shortcuts. In private, LeBron admitted to close friends that Luka's competitive fire reminded him of his own in Miami's heatless era. He's not just trying to win, LeBron told one former teammate over the phone. He's trying to dominate. There's a difference. And that's why I believe in him. Their shared ambition also shaped their training habits. Early in the season following the renewal, LeBron proposed a series of intense two-man workout sessions before team practices. These sessions weren't about cardio or flashy drills. They were pure situational work. End-of-game plays, mid-post counters, defensive switches against smaller lineups. Sometimes they'd barely speak, letting the rhythm of the game dictate their adjustments. Other times they'd debate for half an hour over whether a certain play could survive the chaos of a Game 7. The younger players noticed. Austin Reeves mentioned in an interview that seeing Luka and LeBron train like that was like watching two grandmasters play chess, but with sneakers and a basketball. The effect was contagious. If the two biggest names on the roster were grinding at that level, everyone else had to match the intensity. By the time preseason ended, their shared ambition had already started reshaping the team's identity. The Lakers weren't just running LeBron's system or Luka's system. They were running a hybrid, one that leveraged Luka's surgical ball control and LeBron's ability to orchestrate chaos in transition. It was a blueprint born not of compromise, but of ambition pushing ambition. For LeBron, that was the real victory of Luka's renewal. It wasn't about securing another superstar in purple and gold. It was about knowing that the next chapter of Lakers basketball would be led by someone who saw the game and the pursuit of greatness through the same relentless lens. LeBron James had always been more than just a small forward. For most of his career, he was also the primary ball handler, floor general, and emotional compass of his teams. But as the ink dried on Luka Dončić'S new contract, he knew the dynamics were bound to change. Not because he was stepping away from the spotlight, but because the Lakers would be stronger if responsibilities were more evenly spread. The shift began subtly. During early practices after Luka's renewal, LeBron started deferring certain offensive sets to Luka by default. Not because he couldn't run them himself, he could still read a defense faster than anyone on the floor, but because he wanted the team to adapt to Luka as the central initiator. In transition, he'd occasionally trail instead of lead the break, giving Luka space to dictate tempo. In half-court sets, he'd drift into the corner, forcing defenders to stretch and opening lanes for Luka's surgical drives. It wasn't easy. LeBron's instincts had been honed over decades to take charge in crucial moments. But he understood that if the Lakers were to thrive beyond his eventual departure, Luka had to feel the weight of running the show now, not later. "You don't become a leader when someone leaves," LeBron told him after one scrimmage. "You become a leader while they're still here to challenge you." Defensively, too, LeBron's role evolved. With Luka handling more offensive creation, he could conserve energy for key defensive assignments, especially late in games. Instead of chasing younger, faster guards for entire quarters, he focused on using his strength and anticipation to disrupt wings and stretch forwards. This gave the Lakers a defensive flexibility they hadn't fully exploited before. The coaching staff took note. Head coach Darvin Ham began staggering their minutes so that one of them was always on the floor. This not only kept the offense stable, but also allowed LeBron to play fewer minutes without reducing his impact. In film sessions, Ham praised the way LeBron embraced the adjustment. "This isn't a step back," Ham told the team one morning. "This is a step toward making us harder to beat." There were moments, of course, when the old LeBron re-emerged. Full-court drives, chase-down blocks, perfectly timed alley-oops to Anthony Davis. But now, those moments felt like sharp bursts rather than a constant blaze, used strategically, to change the momentum rather than carry the entire game. The fans noticed, and so did the media. Some commentators began talking about a point Luka era, drawing parallels to how Magic Johnson once orchestrated the Lakers' offense. LeBron didn't push back against the label. Instead, he leaned into the narrative, publicly praising Luka's command of the floor and joking that he could retire into a corner three-point shooter if Luka kept running the offense like that. But privately, LeBron knew this wasn't about retiring from responsibility. It was about recalibrating it. He could still dominate games when needed, but his legacy in Los Angeles would be defined not just by how many titles he won, but by how well he prepared the Lakers for the day he was no longer in uniform. That was the paradox of the shift. By stepping back in certain areas, LeBron was actually deepening his influence. Every possession Luka ran, every adjustment he made with LeBron still beside him, was another brick laid in the foundation of the post-LeBron Lakers. And if that foundation held, then Luka's renewal would be remembered not just as a contract signing, but as the start of a seamless passing of the torch. Every new partnership in the NBA faces a proving ground, and for LeBron James and Luka Dončić, That test came sooner than expected. Barely a month after Luka's contract renewal, the Lakers hit a brutal stretch of the schedule, a 4-game road trip against playoff-caliber teams, ending with a nationally televised showdown against the defending champions. It wasn't just a matter of endurance. It was about how the team's new hierarchy would hold up under pressure. The first game of the trip in Milwaukee was a warning shot. The Bucks blitzed Luka on pick and rolls, forcing him to give up the ball earlier than usual. The Lakers' offense stumbled, and though LeBron shifted into attack mode in the second half, they fell short. In the locker room afterward, the frustration was thick in the air. Luka sat with a towel over his head, replaying missed reads in his mind. LeBron walked over, sat next to him, and kept his voice low. "They're not trying to stop you," LeBron said. "They're trying to stop us. That means when they trap you, you don't beat them with scoring. You beat them with trust. Kick it out, keep moving, and I'll make sure the floor opens back up." The advice wasn't just talk. In the next game, against the Celtics, Luka adapted. He hit LeBron with early passes out of double teams, and LeBron, in turn, attacked mismatches before the defense could reset. They won convincingly, and the post-game handshake between the two wasn't just a celebration. It was an acknowledgement that the system was working. But the real crucible came in Denver. The Nuggets, with their mix of size and skill, forced the Lakers to play almost perfectly to keep pace. Midway through the fourth quarter, with the game tied, Luka found himself smothered by a rotating wall of defenders. He looked up to see LeBron cutting across the lane, not to score, but to set a screen that freed Luka for a step-back three. The shot dropped, and Luka glanced back at LeBron with a smirk. No words were needed. The Lakers lost that game by a narrow margin, but in the film room the next day it was clear something had clicked. The trust was no longer theoretical, it was visible on the court. Luka had learned that having LeBron as a secondary option didn't mean deferring. It meant expanding the offense's possibilities. And LeBron had confirmed that Luka's instincts were worth betting on, even in the tightest moments. The final game of the trip was the headline maker. Against the defending champs, the Lakers fell behind early, only to storm back in the third quarter. The comeback was a blend of Luka's slow, methodical dissection of the defense and LeBron's sudden bursts of aggression. In the closing minute, with the score tied, LeBron inbounded the ball to Luka, then immediately sprinted into the corner. Luka waved off a screen, dribbled into a double team, and, just when it seemed he was trapped, zipped a pass to LeBron for a dagger three. The arena went silent, except for the Lakers' bench erupting. As they walked back to the huddle for the final defensive possession, LeBron leaned over to Luka and said, "That's how it's gonna be. You trust me, I trust you, and nobody beats both of us." They closed out the game with a defensive stop and walked off the court side by side. The scoreboard read, Lakers 107, Champions 104. But for LeBron and Luka, the real victory was knowing. Their partnership had survived its first trial by fire and come out stronger. In any championship pursuit, the strength of the core goes beyond star power. It's the chemistry that trickles down through the locker room that truly defines a team's identity. After Luka Dončić'S renewal and the emerging partnership, with LeBron James, the Lakers were on the brink of something new, but old habits die hard. Winning respect and trust from the supporting cast would be the next crucial step. LeBron knew this well. Over the years, he had been both the rookie and the veteran, the outsider and the leader. He had seen firsthand how locker rooms could fracture, when stars played in silos, and how the best teams bonded when leaders fostered collective purpose. Luka, despite his prodigious talent, was still earning his stripes as a true locker room presence in LA, and LeBron saw part of his own early challenges mirrored in the young star's experience. Right after the contract announcement, LeBron called a team meeting in the quiet of the practice facility. It wasn't flashy or scripted. He just stood in the center, eyeing every teammate, his voice steady but firm. "This is our moment to build something that lasts. Not just for us, but for the guys who come after," he said. "Luka's committed for the long haul. That means we all have to commit, not just to playing, but to each other. The message was clear. Luka wasn't a solo act, and LeBron wasn't handing over the keys to the kingdom. They were inviting the entire team into the process. Behind the scenes, Luka began to mirror that approach. Known earlier in his career for a laser focus on individual stats and shot creation, he now started engaging more with teammates off the court, grabbing dinners, attending community events, and actively encouraging younger players during practice. His transformation didn't go unnoticed. Players like Austin Reeves and Jared Vanderbilt spoke openly about how Luka's energy changed the locker room dynamic. "It's a different vibe now," Reeves said in an interview. "When Luka's leading, it's not about ego. It's about all of us pushing together." LeBron also made it a point to publicly and privately praise role players, reinforcing the idea that every contribution mattered. In team huddles, he'd single out defensive stops by the bench or hustle, plays by the young guys, building morale and reinforcing collective effort. The coaching staff, led by Darvin Ham, adapted their approach too. Practices began incorporating more team-building drills, and veteran players were given leadership roles to mentor younger teammates. The harmony between Luka and LeBron set a tone that was difficult to ignore. Yet, there were still challenges. Some veteran players, used to being the primary focus on past teams, wrestled with adjusting to the new dual-leader model. Others felt pressure as their minutes fluctuated with the evolving rotations. It was during these moments that LeBron and Luka's leadership was tested off the court as much as on it. One memorable late-night session involved LeBron sitting down with a frustrated bench player who was struggling for consistent playing time. Rather than delivering a stern lecture, LeBron listened. He shared stories of his own career ebbs and flows, emphasizing resilience and the importance of staying ready. Luka followed up the next day with a personal note, reinforcing the message of patience and perseverance. This kind of leadership ripple effect gradually built a culture where players knew their voices were heard and their roles valued. The locker room was evolving from a collection of stars and role players into a cohesive unit. By mid-season, this newfound chemistry was showing in the team's performance. Tighter rotations, fewer mental errors, and a collective intensity that fueled their winning streaks. The locker room buzz wasn't just about Luka and LeBron anymore. It was about the Lakers as a whole. For LeBron and Luka, earning the locker room's respect wasn't just a step on the path to a championship, it was a legacy in the making. And in the heart of the Staples Center, surrounded by teammates and staff, that legacy was beginning to take shape. As the season advanced, the spotlight on LeBron James and Luka Dončić grew brighter, and with it came the unrelenting weight of expectation. Fans, media, and critics alike watched every game with a magnifying glass, dissecting each play, each decision, and each moment on and off the court. The renewal was no longer just a contract headline. It had become a promise, a statement that the Lakers were contenders destined for glory. For LeBron, this was familiar territory. He had carried this burden for nearly 2 decades, enduring the highs and lows that come with being one of basketball's most scrutinized figures. What made this chapter different was sharing that spotlight with Luka, a rising star still carving out his identity in the city and the league. The pressure to lead, inspire, and deliver wasn't just personal anymore, it was collective. The early part of the season saw flashes of brilliance, moments when their chemistry looked effortless. Luka's wizardry with the ball, combined with LeBron's veteran savvy, made the Lakers an electrifying team to watch. But the closer they got to the playoffs, the more opponents game planned to stop them, tightening defenses and testing their resolve. In locker rooms, reporters asked pointed questions. Could these two stars coexist without friction? Was there a leadership struggle brewing? Could LeBron maintain his elite level while helping Luka become the franchise cornerstone? The duo answered with professionalism and unity in public, but behind closed doors, the pressure was very real. Managing expectations also meant managing their own standards. Both players were perfectionists, unwilling to settle for anything less than excellence. LeBron maintained rigorous training routines, watching game tape late into the night, while Luka sought every opportunity to refine his shot and decision-making. Their shared ambition drove them harder, but sometimes threatened to strain their mental and physical limits. Off the court, the Lakers' front office and coaching staff worked tirelessly to build a support system around them. Sports psychologists, nutritionists, and veteran mentors were brought in to help manage the intensity. Media handlers advised on messaging, ensuring that the duo's story remained one of collaboration rather than conflict. Fans showed mixed reactions. Some idolized the pair, filling arenas and boosting merchandise sales, while others remained skeptical, doubting if the two could truly lead the team to a championship together. Social media was a battleground of opinions, praise, and criticism, each adding to the relentless pressure cooker. Yet through it all, LeBron and Luka found solace in their shared journey. Late-night conversations in hotel rooms during road trips became moments to vent, strategize, and recharge. They reminded each other of their goals beyond the immediate wins and losses, the desire to build a legacy that transcended stats and headlines. This balancing act defined much of their season, thriving under pressure while staying grounded in their purpose. The weight of expectation was heavy, but it was also fuel, pushing them to rise above challenges and aim for greatness. As the season unfolded, it became clear that the partnership between LeBron James and Luka Dončić was more than a temporary alliance. It was the foundation of a new era for the Los Angeles Lakers. Their contract extension wasn't just a business transaction. It was a pledge to craft a legacy that blended the wisdom of experience with the boldness of youth. In the Yadi locker room on the court and beyond, the duo's synergy grew into a blueprint for success. LeBron's mentorship transcended instruction. It was a passing of the torch wrapped in respect and shared ambition. Luka, embracing his role as the franchise's cornerstone, balanced reverence for LeBron's achievements with a hunger to carve his own path. Together, they redefined leadership. It wasn't about individual accolades or spotlight moments. It was about collective growth and resilience. Late-game decisions were the product of deep trust, honed through countless hours of film study and on-court battles. Off the court, they championed causes and community initiatives that extended the Lakers' impact beyond basketball. Their influence rippled throughout the organization. Coaches adapted strategies that leveraged their complementary strengths. Younger players found inspiration in their work ethic and mutual respect. Even longtime fans, initially wary of the transition, embraced the evolving identity of the team. While championships remained the ultimate goal, the true measure of their legacy was in the culture they cultivated. A culture where excellence was expected, collaboration was valued, and every member of the team knew their role in the pursuit of greatness. LeBron, once the undoubted face of the franchise, found fulfillment not just in victories, but in preparing the Lakers to thrive long after his playing days. Luka, standing on the cusp of superstardom, embodied the promise of what the future could hold. As they walked off the court together after clinching a pivotal playoff series, the roar of the crowd echoed their unspoken understanding. This was only the beginning. Their story was far from finished, but the foundation was solid, the vision clear. In Los Angeles, a new chapter had begun, one where legends collaborated, legacies intertwined, and the pursuit of greatness was a shared journey. With the foundation of their partnership solidified and the promise of championships fueling their every move, LeBron James and Luka Dončić began to look beyond the immediate horizon. They understood that greatness wasn't just about the moments under the bright arena lights. It was about the structures, systems, and legacies built away from the public eye. LeBron, ever the strategist, began collaborating closely with the Lakers front office to ensure that the team's future would be sustainable long after their playing careers ended. From mentoring young prospects to influencing draft strategies, he invested himself in shaping the franchise's long-term trajectory. Luka, inspired by LeBron's vision, took a growing interest in leadership development programs and community outreach initiatives, realizing that his role extended beyond scoring and assists. Together, they initiated a players' council designed to give voice to every member of the team, creating an environment where ideas, concerns, and innovations could flourish. This council not only fostered unity, but also prepared the younger generation of Lakers to step into leadership roles when the time came. Behind the scenes, they also championed causes close to their hearts: education, social justice, and mental health awareness, using their platforms to drive meaningful change. Their combined influence transcended basketball, uniting teammates, fans, and the broader community around shared values. In the quiet moments away from the spotlight, LeBron and Luka would often discuss their vision for the Lakers' future. These conversations were filled with plans for growth, challenges to overcome, and a mutual commitment to nurturing the next wave of talent. The trust and respect forged on the court now fueled a deeper partnership dedicated to legacy building in all dimensions. As the seasons ahead unfolded, it became clear that their impact would be measured not just in points and trophies, but in the lasting imprint they left on the franchise and the game itself, a testament to leadership that transcended eras. Every great journey must eventually face the moment of transition. For LeBron James and Luka Dončić, that moment wasn't defined by an abrupt end, but by a graceful passing of the torch, one that honored the past while embracing the future. As seasons passed, LeBron's role naturally evolved from primary scorer and floor general to mentor, advisor, and ambassador. He recognized that his time dominating the court would eventually yield to the new generation, embodied by Luka's ascending star. Yet the transition was seamless, built on years of trust, collaboration, and shared vision. In his final seasons, LeBron took pride in watching Luka lead the Lakers with confidence, poise, and maturity. The young star's growth was a source of fulfillment, a living proof that leadership is not about holding power, but about empowering others. Together, they celebrated victories and weathered defeats, always united by their common goal. LeBron's farewell season was marked by emotional moments, standing ovations, heartfelt tributes, and the unmistakable gratitude of a franchise and fan base. But even then, his focus remained steadfast on Luka and the team's future. The lessons he imparted, the standards he set, and the culture he helped build were gifts meant to outlast his playing days. When LeBron finally stepped off the court for the last time, Luka was ready, not just as a superstar, but as a true leader. The baton had been passed with dignity and purpose, signaling a new era for the Lakers that honored its legacy while daring to dream anew. In the ever-evolving landscape of basketball, the story of LeBron James and Luka Dončić stood as a testament to partnership, perseverance, and legacy. It was a reminder that greatness is not a solitary pursuit, but a shared journey, one where the brightest stars rise together, lighting the way for those who follow.